Thanks so much for watching our show. We really appreciate the support. It costs a lot to produce, so we're asking for donations and pledges here on Patreon. Thanks again. Welcome back to See It and Feel It with Dr. Brett.
And I've had other falls like that. I've had falls where I actually had to go as a kid. I had to go and have surgery. So, and another one about 2 years ago, my sister said, yeah, we were I looked down and there's Raphael on the floor, like 2 stories down, and he's laying down. He fell through this thing. And I'm like, I remember that. And she goes, yeah, you fell through.
That's hilarious.
Another time, I mean, seriously, I've had a gun put to my head, knife put to my throat. I've had, I took a pill because I had broken ribs from doing gymnastics. And I had a pill that I took in the morning, and then I got really deathly ill, and I called my doctor and he said, just take some milk. So I took some milk. I mean, there was nobody home, and I was a teenager, and I'm listening to the news at that time. And I used to listen to the news when I was a kid, not anymore. And 5 people in the New York area died from taking the same exact pill.
No way. Yeah, that's pretty
5
awful.
people. And they took it off the market right away. And so I've had so many experiences that it's taught me that I have a guardian angel somehow. And I'm not afraid of death. I'm afraid of not living.
Yeah.
So that's why I cherish every moment, So when we think about life, it's beautiful. And so many people are not enjoying every minute that they can.
Yeah, no, that's well said. No, there's something very profound about having, experienced your own mortality, right? And then coming out the other side with the attitude that, we got to get the most out of every day. I always say that, like, even when I'm off, because sometimes you wake up and you're off, right? You're not gonna have your A game. Most of the time we can find some way to still be playful or smile in some way, right? And I think it seems to me like you're living that, pretty much every day of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. What's the hardest part of your journey at this point as a teacher, and what's the easiest part?
The hardest part is, believe it or not, having people believe in themselves. There's so much doubt. People have so much doubt. It's terrible. And the doubt comes from everyone telling them no, everyone saying you're no good, all these negative things that people allow themselves to put into themselves. They allow all these negativity to go in, and then they hold on to it. And that's the hardest part that I see when I'm trying to help anyone. It's that negativity, that doubt. That self-doubt is huge. And so many people are walking around with self-doubt. They don't believe in themselves. They've been let down by other people, and they don't believe in the fact that once they start to believe in themselves, their lives can be great.
Yeah, no, that's well said. But how do you, what do you do when you get in there? You recognize it's pretty obvious you're an experienced pro. You've been doing, martial arts, but also teaching and mentoring, guiding for a long time. So it's pretty obvious that you're going to be able to recognize when someone is running a fair amount of self-doubt. You'll recognize it when they're running a little bit, but, that's something you're going to be aware of pretty quickly as a teacher, especially experienced one. What do you do, like, to get in there and start to, consistently address that or systematically address it? How do you start and, and where do you take it?
Well, we have to start with what are their beliefs, right? So in order to understand anyone, we have to understand where they're coming from.
Right.
What are their limiting beliefs? Because we all have limiting beliefs. So it's important for me to find out what do they want to accomplish? And why haven't they accomplished it? And why do they need someone else? Why can't they do it on their own? So we all have something that's holding us back. So we need to find out what that is. Once we find out what that is, then there's certain steps that we need to take. Maybe it's just start writing down your feelings, your emotions, writing down, record them if you don't like writing. We have smartphones nowadays. Take take a smartphone and say your feelings, say what you feel, how you react to certain things are also going to limit you as to your growth. So we need to start to have people reflect and internalize what they're doing on a daily basis.
Mm.
So journaling is big, and it doesn't have to be written journaling. It could be recording. You can record yourself on your smartphone. You
Yeah.
can talk to other people, and
Mm.
it's just everyone you surround yourself with. And then you have to understand that we can choose our family if we want to interact with them. Our family is not someone we can choose, but we can choose if we interact with them. We can also choose who our friends are and who our mates are. So it's important for us to know who's in our circle and how big of our circle can we handle. Some people can only handle a few people. Some people think they can handle many, and that's not true, because
Mm.
you can't give your full self to 100 people. You know,
Mm.
a real sphere of your personal growth is going to be based on the small amount of people around you who are going to affect your life. So we have
Yeah.
to start looking at who's in your space, who's in your head, who's
Mm.
putting thoughts in your head, whether they're
Yeah.
positive or negative, right? And we have to start evaluating where you're at, where do you want to be, and who's with you.
Yeah, what I love when I'm listening to you, Raphael, is it almost, it's a lot of psychology. I mean, it really is what I'm listening to. A lot of self-awareness work, a lot of personal growth work. It's way beyond the physical training here, and it just seems like your ability to integrate the psychological and emotional components of training athletes is pretty profound. I'm impressed.
Thank you.
Mm.
Well, when we're thinking about the physicality, it a lot of times our mindset, what happens in our life, we take into the physicality of it. If we have a meet we have to do, whether it's competition or just performance, it's that mindset that's going to set you up, and it's going to set you up differently than the other people you're competing with. If they're happy about what they're going to do, if they're if they've done the work, if they've practiced enough. So I mean, think of a concert pianist, right? They're not thinking about the keys they're going to hit. They're thinking about what their performance is going to be like. So we have to take that mindset into, it's not the little details that we're doing, even though they're important, it's the outcome, the performance of what we're going to be doing. So as helping an athlete, it's important for them to understand, it's, you've done the work. Now you have to take all that together and now perform. And it's
Um,
basically a meet or competition is basically everything you've already done. Now you're just showing it to everyone else.
mm. And how do you address the sort of fears that come up, for some people around that sort of like, that having the audience, the fact that they are, being observed, and that there's potential issues around, shame, of not necessarily performing to the level, the performance fears. You know, how do you make that transition with your clients?
Well, one of the things that I do, if I'm doing a one-on-one, it's a little different. But if I'm doing like a group, what
Mm.
I'll do is I'll have them perform in front of each other, right?
Yeah.
So that way they get used to being in the spotlight. And
Mm.
a lot of people, like especially kids, they'll come in, their heads are down, they hide behind their parent, and it's because the parent is always shielding them, right?
Mm.
So parents, if we want to let our children become more, we have to push them out a little bit and let them fend for themselves. And it's that performance anxiety that people have, and it's because they think, and you said it, they think they're going to fail.
Mm.
And when we can think of someone who's playing a Russian like not Russian roulette, but
I know. I almost thought you were going to say that. I'm like, think about someone playing Russian roulette.
yeah, is
Anyway,
that
go ahead.
gun going to go off and kill me? No, like roulette, right? If you're gambling. Now, are you worried? Are you planning on your numbers and the odds of where you put your bet? Or are you going to worry once the roulette wheel starts moving? Because it's too late at that time. So when we think about all the actions we have to take, we have to, at once that wheel starts going, we have to forget about everything we've done. It's already out there, and whatever comes comes. We've planned for it, we've made our decisions, and our decisions are going to be based on all the hard work we made and having a clear mind as to what we're going to decide to do. So if we're going to go and do a performance anywhere, public speaking, anything, we need to practice ahead of time. And we may even have to record ourselves and see how we look, how we act, what our hands are doing. Our hands going at the same speed as our speech, or our hands going like this and our speech is slower. How do we talk? How do we do? How do we perform? And we have to evaluate ourselves constantly. This is why mirrors are important as a martial arts instructor, because a lot of times I will tell people, look in the mirror, and they won't. They'll look down. And I'm like, look in the mirror. I want you to see your moves. And so I'll have that. And then every so often they'll say, yeah, I did it. It's perfect. I'm like, well, let's take a look. They didn't know I was recording them. So I take out my phone and I go, what do you see? So I show them the phone, and they're like, yeah, you were telling me my arm was not straight. I said, yeah. And I wasn't lying, but here's the proof. And they're like, oh, and I can move my foot better. So a lot of time is this is why I believe coaching is so important. You need someone to have an honest view of you so that they can help you grow. So having the fear of performance is just self-doubt. That's what it is. And where we can start saying, you know what, scratch everything. The minute that curtain moves, that the minute you're in front of a podium, just be you. You've already done as long as you've done all the work, right? That's important.
You know, the weird part is, and everything you're sharing is phenomenal, Raphael, and I agree with it. And I think the more prepared in general you are, and you're preparing people in many different ways, mirrors are just one example of many, to get, really feedback along the way to prep people for the actual performance. And yet some people choke regardless. And so, right, there are people that are so well prepared, but, as soon as the lights go on, they choke. So how do you handle the sort of more, wired people to choke than the people that are a little more cooler under pressure naturally? How do you deal with that?
Well, let's say somebody chokes, right? We have to learn from that experience. So one of the things is, look, why do you think in Hollywood they have cut, action, 28? Cut, because nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect. And you know what? You have to accept the fact that, hey, I may go out there and I may stink. I may be horrible. I may lose, but it's a learning experience. And you won't know how good you are unless you get out there. You have to get out there. And the more you get out there, the easier it becomes. It's that fear of going out there the first time. After a while, you keep going out there, and guess what? You stink a little less every time.
It's so true.
A little less.
It's so true. And yet there's some people that just aren't making it to the highest level regardless. And so how do you handle that kind of situation?
Maybe you're in the wrong field. Let's evaluate what you are really trying to accomplish and what your real goals are. Because, hey, guess what, buddy? You're not cutting it here. So why don't we evaluate what you're trying to accomplish, and let's see if, first of all, is your heart in it? Is your mind in it? Is your body in it? You have to evaluate. You're not being successful here. There's got to be a reason. We got to dive deep into it. We might need to call Dr. Brett and find out for real what's going on, right? It may be deeper than you think. Maybe this is not your forte. This is something maybe you're better qualified to do something else. Look, a lot of times people will shine at a job they didn't know they could shine, but someone, one person, a supervisor, a boss, someone said they're horrible here, but let's put them in this position, and boom, all of a sudden they jump. And it's someone looking as a owner, as a business owner, as a boss, as a anyone. You always have to be with prying eagle eyes, not prying, eagle eyes, to look for the qualities in people. Because maybe, hey, this one is not good at being behind a desk. Maybe they need to do this one, or this job, or maybe this one is good at cleaning, but my God, they have such personality, they would be better in customer service. So we have to, as owners, business, anyone who's helping anyone, let's evaluate where you are and where you should be, because we all have a purpose in our lives, and that's the key. Find your purpose.
Yeah, that's phenomenal, Raphael. I think we're going to bring you back, but I think that's a phenomenal place to wrap up, because that's just so well said. It's crazy. Raphael Gomez, advanced mental game coach here, martial artist, and all around awesome guy. Really appreciate your time today.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you for coming on. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks for watching See It and Feel It with me, Dr. Brett. If you enjoyed this video, remember to like, subscribe, or share it with a friend.